everyone, I'm Michelle Foo from NIEC NP Campus. It's a joy to be here with you today, and thank you for joining me in this session where we discuss about inclusive practices. Here are the segments that I will be going through. What diversity means to Singapore EC educators, cultural and ethnic background of children, language diversity, diverse abilities and learning styles of children, implication on Singapore EC educators. Imagine a class of 18 and 2 children with child A who speaks only Vietnamese, child B who easily throws a tantrum, and child C who immediately goes to a specific corner of the classroom upon arrival and begins to rock back and forth. Child C will only stop when he hears music. I believe many of us would have experienced or are currently experiencing this scene. Today, we'll explore what diversity means in the context of early childhood education in Singapore. We'll look at the cultural, linguistic, and learning differences among our children and reflect on what this means for us as educators. Our goal is to deepen our understanding and walk away with practical strategies to create more inclusive, responsive classrooms. When you hear the word diversity, what comes to mind in the context of your classroom? While you think about your answer, I will go into our first segment on what diversity means to Singapore EC educators. Our classrooms reflect a colourful blend of races, languages, religions, family structures, and abilities. Each child brings their unique story, their cultural background, home environment, and personal experiences. As early childhood educators, our role goes beyond simply acknowledging these differences. Diversity means recognizing, valuing each child's unique identity, not just in what we teach, but in how we listen, how we respond, and how we connect. And here's the key. It's not just about inclusion, it's about belonging. Inclusion means making space. Belonging means making that space feel like home. When children feel they truly belong, they thrive, not just academically, but socially and emotionally. That's the kind of classroom we strive to create. Take a moment to reflect. In what ways have you created an inclusive classroom environment where every child feels a true sense of belonging? Diversity in the classroom is seen through language, traditions, food, and values. Rather than being obstacles, these differences offer meaningful opportunities for learning and connection. As early childhood educators, it's our responsibility to ensure that every child sees their identity reflected and respected. This is the essence of culturally responsive teaching. So how do we do that? I have observed that schools include cultural stories, songs, and celebrations in our lessons. For example, reading a story about Deepavali, singing a Chinese New Year song, or exploring traditional Malay games. Another powerful strategy is to invite families to share their traditions, especially when they align with classroom themes. This not only enriches the learning experiences, but also strengthens the home-school connection. Let's take a look at language diversity. I believe many of you would have had holidays in countries such as Japan and Korea. These seems to be the favorite holiday spots for Singaporeans nowadays. How do you communicate with locals? How did you feel after a day of hearing and trying to make sense of a language you don't speak? At the start of the webinar, I shared a scenario about a child who speaks only Vietnamese. For some children, English is not their first language. With constant exposure to English in school, it can be overwhelming. This can impact their ability to understand instructions that you give, express themselves, and participate confidently in classroom activities. So how can we help children whose first language is not English? As educators, we must be aware of each child's language background and show sensitivity to their language and literacy development. It's important that we create a language-rich environment that supports all learners. Here are a few strategies that can make a big difference. First, use visual aids, gestures, and simplified language to support comprehension. For example, pairing spoken instructions with pictures and actions helps bridge the language gap. Using teaching aids to facilitate learning. Second, consider pairing children with language buddies, peers who can help translate or model language use in a supportive way. And finally, create a language-friendly and inclusive classroom by labeling materials with words and pictures. This not only supports learning, but also affirms their identity and builds confidence. Before we move on, take a moment to reflect. What is one small change you can make to support children who may be struggling with English in your classroom? In our classrooms, we have children who are visual learners, who understand best through images and observation. Others who are auditory learners who absorb information through listening and rhythm. And then there are kinesthetic learners who need to move, touch, and explore to make sense of the world. How many of you have gone to IKEA, bought a piece of furniture, and started assembling it at home? Some of you might just dive straight in, putting the pieces together without looking at the instructions. Others might study the diagram carefully before starting. And then there are those who read the written instructions step by step before getting to work. What does that tell you about the children in your classroom? Beyond learning styles, we also support children with diverse abilities. Some may have special needs, while others may show advanced skills in certain areas. As early childhood educators, our role is to create a learning environment that is flexible, inclusive, and responsive to all these differences. We must be intentional in designing environments where every child feels safe, valued, and empowered to learn. The Nurturing Early Learners Framework, or NEL framework, emphasizes that teachers must be intentional in their planning to support children's holistic development. Here are a few strategies that can help. Physical environment. Create accessible spaces for all children. Consider mobility needs, sensory preferences by offering quiet corners, soft lighting, or adaptive seating. You might want to offer child B, who easily throws a tantrum, a chance to calm down at the quiet corner. Offering multi-sensory activities that engage sight, sound, and movement. For example, a literacy activity might include storytelling, singing, and hands-on letter tracing. Work with the parents of child C to identify the child's favorite song. Then create a piggyback song with the concepts that you want the child to learn. Set up flexible learning corners equipped with meaningful materials where children can choose how they want to engage with a concept, whether through art in the aesthetic and creative expression corner, building at the construction corner, listening at the literacy or numeracy corner, or engaging in role play at the dramatic play corner. Social inclusion. Facilitate meaningful peer interactions. Use cooperative games that celebrate differences and implement buddy systems to help children build friendships and feel included. Differentiated instructions. Modify activities so that everyone can participate. Offer multiple ways to engage with content and to demonstrate learning, whether through drawing, speaking, or movement. Why? Why must our representation of understanding only come in the form of a worksheet? And most importantly, use inclusive language and celebrate all forms of progress. When we design our classrooms with inclusion in mind, we are not just meeting needs. We are nurturing a community where every child feels seen, valued, and empowered to learn. As we move into our final segment on the implications for early childhood educators in Singapore, I invite you to pause and consider. What do all these insights mean to you professionally and personally? This begins with self-awareness. We need to take time to reflect on our own cultural bias and assumptions. What beliefs do we carry consciously and unconsciously that might shape how we interact with children and families? Inclusion also means being committed to continuous learning. Let's seek out professional development opportunities that deepen our understanding of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Peer collaboration is key. Share strategies, challenges, and successes with your colleagues. Together, we can build stronger, more inclusive practices. And finally, let's be willing to adapt and improve. Inclusion is not a one-time effort. It's an ongoing journey. As we begin to see new insights, we must be open to evolving our approach. Let's also remember the power of partnership. When we co-create learning experiences with families and communities, we build bridges that enrich every child's learning journey. So here's our call to action. Let's commit to being educators who not only teach, but who honor, include, and empower every child. Because when every child feels that they belong, they don't just learn, they flourish. As we wrap up today's session, let's take a moment to reflect on the key takeaways from our discussion on diversity and inclusion in early childhood education. We've explored the rich diversity present in Singapore's early childhood classrooms, spanning culture, language, family, and learning needs. We discussed the importance of culturally and linguistically responsive teaching, inclusive practices that support all learners, and the need for intentionality in our environments and interactions. We also emphasized self-awareness, ongoing professional growth, and collaboration with families and peers. Now, the call to action is clear. Let's strive to be educators who honor, include, and empower every child. Thank you for taking this time to reflect with me. Diversity is not a challenge, it's a strength. Let's continue to learn from one another and build classrooms where every child feels seen, heard, and valued.